Hey guys, I'm Shawn of WebPianoTeacher.com. How are you doing today? Well, welcome to my studio. Welcome to my free online beginner piano course on YouTube, completely free. It's going to be at least 10 lessons long. There's going to be sheet downloads for this that you can download to help you as you're doing the course. See the video description on how to get those sheets. There's no catch there. I'm going to give them to you. And wow, this is gonna be great. So you're a beginner, or maybe you took lessons a long time ago and it didn't quite work out and you're gonna try it again. You've come to the right place because I've been doing this my whole life. I'm gonna be 51 years old this year. I've been on YouTube for 20 years. I've had my website for 20 years. I've been teaching for almost 40 years. I've been a professional musician starting at age 12. I played for weddings. I played it in church. I was an accompaniment for anybody who needed a piano player. If you needed a piano playing, I was for hire. So that's what I did when I was younger. I've taught thousands of people in person. Okay. I've taught millions online, but I've taught thousands in person. I've taught individuals. I've taught group lessons. I've taught rock bands. I'm a gigging musician myself. I've recorded albums. I've done all sorts of things. So anything music related for piano, I've done it and I've been there, and I have a lot of wisdom to give you. Okay. Over that course of time, you kind of learn what's going to work for people, what's not going to work for them. And what's traditionally taught out there is not really the way that works for most people. I think that's why most people fail at piano when they try to learn, because it just, doesn't lend itself, the traditional way doesn't lend itself to what's going to work for most people. So we're going to look at that here, okay? So let's dive right in, shall we? All right, so here's I call it my board still. Years ago, I started with an actual whiteboard and a marker, so I still call it a board even though it's a screen. Beginner piano course, lesson 1, what do we got here? All right, there are 3 paths that you can take as you learn piano. You may not realize that, okay? Because what most people do is they say, oh, I got to learn how to read music. Because that's just how it is. That's what I did when I was a kid. I was classically trained. I can play anything that's classical music, anything you put in front of me, sheet music-wise, I can read it and I can play it. I can also play, anything by ear that I hear. But I found that most people, they think they need to learn to read music, and for what they're really after, that is not always necessary, and it's not even always the best way to proceed, okay? So we're going to talk about the 3 ways that you can pursue piano, and I'm going to help you decide which one is going to work for you. And you don't have to decide today, okay? Because what we're going to do is going to apply to all 3 different ways, 3 different paths, and I'm going to help you make that decision by lesson 10. And we're going to learn a lot of fun things along the way. We're going to learn to play some cool, fun songs, not Itsy Bitsy Spider and Row, Row, Row Your Boat. We're going to play real music that was on the radio, that is on the radio, that everyone's going to love. If you played it at a party, they would just eat it up, okay? So we're going to do fun songs. And along the way, I'm going to help you make this choice of which direction you want to go with piano. So let's take a look at them. I'm not going to get too in-depth here. I'm going to kind of touch on them, but I want you to have it in mind because you're going to need to make that choice eventually, okay? So the top way up here that most people choose is traditional note reading, which is, you know what music looks like. You learn to read music and you say, well, I'm going to learn to play piano, so then I'll be able to play Billy Joel stuff. I'll be able to play Elton John. I'll be able to play like the Beatles do, what's on the records that I like listening to. And that, I'm sorry, that is absolutely wrong. You can learn to read music. It's a great skill to have. It's wonderful. But if you're after wanting to do what Billy Joel does, wanting to do what Elton John does, wanting to do what, I don't know, Paul McCartney does, or some other piano player when they're playing in concert, you say, I want to do that. Reading music is not going to do that for you. So I'm going to make a lot of people angry. I'm going to shake some foundations here, but I care enough about you to tell you the truth, okay? Reading music is not going to help you get that. If that's what you're after, reading music isn't going to contribute to that really at all, okay? Now, if you want to play classical music, or you want to play piano solo versions with melody in the right hand, pieces that are written for a piano solo, music reading is great for that. It's a hard skill to learn, and it takes a lot of work to be able to get good at it. But that's usually the way most people choose, and it's also has the highest failure rate, I'm sorry to say, because of that reason, because people get into it and they figure out, oh, this is not what I wanted. And they don't realize that, okay? You have those books everybody buys, level 1, level 2, level 3, and each one has a theory book, a technique book, a blah, blah, blah book. And you don't need to do all that stuff if all you want to play is some Beatles songs. You really don't, okay? There's a wealth of poor instruction. If you want to see that, just look on YouTube. A lot of them have millions of views. Just because a video is popular doesn't mean it's good teaching, okay? Good entertainment does not equal good teaching. Sometimes it does, okay? The next way, which is probably the way that would work for most people, is rarely chosen, highly effective though, but there are few instructors to teach it because most people that play by chord, they don't end up being teachers, okay? People they just kind of figure it out on their own and they get good at it and they're not really interested in teaching someone else how to do it. So there's not really, a course out there for chords. You'll see a few videos here and there, but there's not any really good courses for that. It tends to be people who just get in there and try to figure it out on their own. Eventually, okay, I can get it. But there is a way to teach it. We're going to look at that. I'm going to explain it to you as we go through. But it's probably what you're after. 95% of the people watching this video, that's the way you need to go. And unfortunately, most of you go to the music reading route and it ends up being a big disappointment. All right. You may have experienced that earlier in life because that music reading is really heavily leaning toward classical music. Okay. And most people don't want to play that. And that's okay. I mean, I love classical music. And it's really the only time that I read music. If I want to play a popular song or rock song, I don't use sheet music because it's usually wrong or it doesn't sound very good. And I'd rather, play by chords and play like the album sounds, So that's the middle way, the chord way. This one I'm just calling by ear. And what it really is, it's a more advanced way of playing by chord. And that's where you not only know how to do chords, but you also know licks. And maybe you know bass hand, left hand patterns. So that stuff is not really, chords. It's just, it is chords, but it's more advanced. So by ear is kind of a more advanced chord way of playing. It's the least chosen, but it has the highest rate of long-term success, people that play by ear. And like I have here, there's no standard that I know of besides my method that really teaches people how to play by ear. Because most people that play by ear, they just they figure it out themselves, right? Their own self. They just start listening and they go, okay, I got this. There is a way to teach it. And it's kind of what I've made my living off of. We're going to look at that as well. I call it my whiteboard method, but it's another way of learning to play where you not only learn how to play chords and how chords work in a song, but you develop your ear to be able to hear those licks and hear those left-hand patterns to play in a more advanced style to sound like the artist you love when you listen to the radio. Or does anybody listen to the radio anymore? I listen to records. I don't know if any of you still listen to records, but those are the three ways. And I just kind of touched on them that may be more than you wanted at this point, but you're going to be making a decision here on this. Okay. Can you do all three? Yes, you can. I do all three, but I wouldn't recommend working all three at once. Okay. So outside in is sheet music reading, traditional notation. That's where all the dots on the page, you're just obeying those commands and you're doing what it says and it ends up sounding like music. Inside out is how this is played. So when you see I use Elton John and Billy Joel because they're premier piano players. Let's say Carole King too. Carole King's great. When you see them play, they never have a piece of sheet music in front of them. You realize that? So why would you think that the sheet music is going to get you there? It's not what they're doing. That's not how they're doing it. Maybe they can read sheet music. Maybe they're not very good at it, I would imagine, because they play by ear so much. Maybe they spend all their time doing that. But they're playing inside out. It's coming out of them. They know their chords. They know how they feel in the moment. And that can be taught. We're going to look at that as we get into this. But just to kind of take an overview of that, there we go, the three ways. So you don't have to decide now, but I'm telling you in advance. And I'm also telling you this because I want to save your your feelings and save your disappointment, because I could just say, oh, let's go read music, which is what most happens a lot of the times. But I'm telling you the truth. I've experienced this. I've seen it happen with people. And I want to tell you what's really going to happen. Right now, I'll go ahead and tell you another thing that's out there. Learn piano in 7 days. Learn piano in 21 days. Learn piano. I seen one that said learn piano in 4 minutes. Those are not true either. It's hard. It's difficult to learn an instrument, but you can do it, and you can have fun while you're doing it. If you do the right things, you can actually really enjoy the hard work. Okay, so that's what I'm going to try to lead you towards. In this course, you're going to learn 5 awesome songs at least. If I do more than 10, it'll be more than that. You're going to learn 5 awesome songs. I won't tell you what they are yet. They're coming up. You're going to learn one thing: how to pick the right lessons, to learn with, and how to practice those 2 things. Those are the 2 things while people most quit, because they don't know how to pick the right lessons and they don't know how to practice. I'm going to show you both those things. When you pick songs, it's got to be a song you love. No one wants to play music they hate, all right? So you don't have to play all this other music so that one day I can play the songs I love. You can play great songs today, right now, okay? And I guarantee success with my method if you do the things I say, because you can have a basic level of success, and a lot of good songs are very basic songs that sound really cool. Okay, so we're going to get into it here. So why not? Let's do that. So lesson 1, we've looked at the 3 ways and that you can have in mind. So be thinking about that. We're going to talk more about it every lesson, but we need to know some basic terms. Okay, some basic terms so that we can proceed as I begin teaching, so that you know what I'm talking about. Okay, and anybody that plays music, they need to know some of these terms, no matter what you're doing. And I put check marks here. Well, I didn't put check marks on this one, but this applies to all 3, okay? So everything we're going to learn, you're not missing out on one of these ways. You're going to be able to easily branch off into whatever one of those 3 that you want to do. And by the way, I didn't put the piano apps or the falling blocks method up there because they aren't worth even putting up there. They are not teaching you anything. All right. You know, I'm talking about the falling blocks, the video game thing. People use those and they kind of become addictive, and it's kind of like a video game. You're not learning anything. All right. I'm a teacher. I want to teach you how to be a musician. I want to teach you what a chord is, how one chord relates to another, what it means to play in a key. I want to teach you how to play with expression, how to use the pedal, how to play in a certain style, how to put licks in the right hand, how to do all these things. And the falling blocks doesn't teach you any of that. You're just copying a computer program. You're what I call, you're just being a copycat robot is what I call it. So you do that song and you don't really learn anything. Then you go on to the next one. You don't really learn anything. So you're not really improving. You're not becoming a musician. It's like being able to pronounce a language but never understanding what you're saying. And so they're so destructive. And there a lot of the good musicians that are younger who could grow up to be have the potential to be great musicians. The falling blocks and these piano apps are just robbing them and stealing them of their musicianship. So I stand firmly and strongly against those apps. We still need real people teaching. We still need hands-on people showing us what to do. And you're not going to see graphics here on this video. I don't put big letters on the keys. I don't, light up the keys, because then you never learn what the notes are, because you just look what keys lit up and you play that one instead of what is the note actually. Okay. If I put all that junk on there, you never really learn what the notes are and you never get anywhere. Okay. So, let's finally move on here. So here's some terms that we're going to need to know as we proceed here in this course, okay? One is, this is called treble clef, okay? If you've ever had any music at all, you've done treble clef and bass clef. When I was a kid, they called it Mrs. Treble Clef and Mrs. Bass Clef. And the idea here is that treble means high, right? Remember your tuners, you turn up the treble, you're turning up the highs. When you turn up the bass, you're turning the lows. And so on the left-hand side of the piano are the low notes, on the right side are the treble notes. Now, I apologize if this is too basic, but I want to cover everything so no one is left behind, no one is left out, okay? So the right hand is going to tend to play those treble clef notes high. The left hand is going to tend to play the low notes in the bass clef for the left hand. That's what a bass clef looks like. Okay, just a little curvy thing with 2 dots. And then the treble clef is a really pretty symbol, isn't it? And it's the treble clef. So this is called the staff, these 5 lines and 4 spaces. See, when you draw 5 lines, it makes 4 spaces. And if you're going to read traditional music notation, there's going to be note heads, those black dots, either on a line or inside a space. And the same thing for my whiteboard method. It's very similar to this. But as you go up on the staff, you're going to the right. Okay? As you go down, you're going to the left. And the reason that's important, because if I say go down, I need you to know which way I'm talking about. Down is this way. Up is this way. It's up on the page. It's down on the page. Okay? It's right is up, left is down. All right? So we have the 5 lines and 4 spaces on the staff. I might say the treble staff or the bass staff, okay? So as you print out these sheets, make notes on them. If you're a note taker, that's great. Have a journal, mark things down. It's very good to do that. A physical journal, guys, not an electronic one. Get something where you can put pen to paper and actually write. There's something about it that invigorates us and makes us feel good about ourselves when we keep a journal and it's actually, ink on paper. Now, so there's our first term, treble clef, bass clef, staff, 5 lines, 4 spaces. All right, so now we're going to look a little more here as we look at the staff. So if we did traditional music note reading, you would, instead of the letters written there, you'd actually just have the note head. And you just have to memorize what they all are. That's the biggest struggle in learning to note read, is learning, what dot is what letter it is. All right, and to make matters worse, the left hand is different than the right hand. You see, so the letters are different because this is a bass clef and this is a treble clef. All right. And we're going to look at why that is. But before we do that, I want you to notice that there's only 7 letters that repeat over and over and over on the keyboard. So I'm going to show you the first one. This is an A down here. You can see that on the screen. It's an A note, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If I just do the white keys all the way up, it's only 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then what do? We do A again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm playing that in the wrong place. It'd actually be here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Over and over. Only 7 letters. So in just a minute here, you'll be able to name every white key on the piano and be able to tell what letter it is. But I'm going to tell you something. Do not, under any circumstances, write the letters on the keys or put little sticky notes on the keys saying what letters they are, because then you never learn what they are. Okay, you just look and see where the sticky note is, and you never make that connection, and you're always stuck in the first gear, never able to proceed, okay? So don't do that. Don't mark letters on your fingers. Don't do any of that. Just learn what they are. There's only 7. You can do that. All right? So it always appalls me when teachers let their students do that or even encourage them to do it. Only 7 letters. They repeat over and over. The treble clef is called a G clef. Okay, this is good information to have because whether you're going to read music or not, it's good to know how the staff works at least. So it's called a G clef because the little curly thing is around the line where a G would be. That's a G on a treble G. But that's why it's called a G clef, and that's your starting place, G, A, B, C. So it just tells you where you're starting on that clef. There's different clefs according to what instrument you're playing, okay? The piano's so big, okay? We got more notes than any instrument, and that's why we need actually 2 clefs to do it. Most other instruments just have 1 clef. So this is called the bass clef or the F clef because the curly Q thing is around where an F note would be. That's why we call it an F clef. There are other clefs. There's alto clef. There's tenor clefs, according to what instrument you're playing. But on piano, we just use treble and bass. Okay, treble and bass. And you'll use this for my whiteboard method as well as traditional music note reading, and it also comes in handy for looking at chords. Okay. So, G clef, F clef, treble and bass. There's only 7 letters that repeat. I'm not asking you to know where they are yet. I just want you to know that there are 7, okay? It's very important to realize that. 7 that repeat over and over. So how are we doing so far? There's my little introduction. So as many things are, as many good courses are, we start with just kind of getting you situated, getting you oriented so that we can actually, dive in and start learning some stuff. But it's important. I mean, I care about you guys' learning, and it really matters to me if I'm an effective teacher or not, okay? So I thrive on that. And so I want to tell you good things. I want to start you off right. I want the course to be good rather than get millions of views, okay? That's more important to me, for it to be a good course that actually helps people. I don't want it to be just entertainment. I'm not after that. I want you to learn. I want to teach you how to fish so that you can fish. All right. I have people that have been on my website for 15, 18 years, and they're gigging musicians and they're flourishing. And I love that, because that shows me that my method is working, that things are working. And there's nothing more satisfying as a teacher. All right. So put stuff in the comments if you have any comments, if you have any questions. Again, the video description, I'll have info on how to get those free sheets. Okay. I'll see you in lesson 2. We'll continue on.